Warning, this episode contains mild to heavy explicit spoilers. Listen at your own risk.
Reviews, discussions, and theories about films in horror, sci-fi, and genre. This is The Horror Deconstruction. Like, share, and subscribe to hear more.
Wartime, Eastern Europe. A young boy sent by his father to live on the outskirts of constant annihilation of towns, villages, and people. After the death of his aunt, the nameless child sets off on his own to navigate the unknown roads that only promise death and destruction. This young boy witnesses and becomes the victim of every single deviant hazard aside from death itself a person can experience. The Painted Bird is a film about the horrors of war. Not that anyone needs a reminder, you can simply turn on your television and see for yourself. The film caused a buzz during screenings and festivals for its seemingly relentless terrors on screen. Fascinated by the word of mouth as a gape, I went in thinking I'd seen endless brutality for exploitative sensationalism. This isn't that type of film. Walking the cinematic line between come and see with its visual motif of Schindler's List, we're given an art house take on the inhumanity of mankind. As stated before, this kid becomes the punching bag of war itself. Through his Alice in Wonderland hell escapades, the film becomes more of a mise-en-scene of grief than it is of telling a straightforward story. The boy is an avatar of the nameless victims of society at war. The title itself comes from a scene in which an old man who has taken the boy in uses a bird and paints it white, letting it loose to rejoin its flock. When in a visually beautiful and chaotic sequence, the bird is torn to shreds by its confused equals. This points out two understandings of the film: the rampant anti-Semitism the boy faces for being quote-unquote different, and the machinations of others that destroy innocence for no other reasons than to feel strong. The film straddles a near 3-hour running time of mayhem and degradation. It's graphic in some points, dealing with eye-gouging, hanging corpses, things like that. An older woman trying to seduce the boy and abusing him when he can't perform the task, another humiliation in the long line of embarrassing things the kid goes through. The film, based on the novel written by Jerry Kosinski, was supposedly fact-based until the premiere, when it was noted to be a work of pure fiction. That I can understand, because the level of bad luck the hero in the film goes through becomes almost darkly comical. There's a moment which you can't think it gets worse for the lead when he's thrown into a pit of human excrement and think, this is a joke, isn't it? If it weren't for the startlingly cold scenes where Jewish victims try to escape a death train and are viciously executed, and a town decimated by horseback marauders brings back the reality of the hell of war, that is absolutely no laughing matter. There are some notable cameos by actors such as Harvey Keitel, Stellan Skarsgård, Udo Kier, Barry Pepper essentially reprising his role from Saving Private Ryan, and Julian Sands as a despicable pederast who ends up having one of the more satisfying comeuppances for this film, one of the rare ones. The movie itself, though, does feel hollow, a collection of scenes where bad things happen to good people and the hopelessness of war. It comes off as a cribbing of Steven Spielberg's wartime films. Now, don't get me wrong, there is an incredible talent and messaging behind the movie itself, but it feels a bit light in the dramatics, almost like a high school version of a Ellen Klimov feature. That said, I cannot speak on the terrors real-life people endured before and during the Second World War. This is a stylized depiction, and I can only comment on how this film chooses to hammer over your head how grotesque it was. If you are easily disturbed, though, this film hits every note of putrefaction you can expect. Piles of corpses, children dragging their own bullet-riddled bodies to escape, Nazi death squads tearing people apart, eyes gouged out with spoons, people eaten alive by rats. It feels exploitative, but in a classy way, a highbrow version of torture porn. Colorful, or should I say colorless, cast of eclectic characters range from a sexually frustrated old man enraged at a sexually liberated and possibly mentally ill woman haunting the nearby woods, machine-like SS death troopers signifying the hands of war closing in on Europe, a vengeful sniper that becomes a fleeting father figure, a sexually frustrated young woman who dehumanizes those who can't please her, mocking them by dry-humping a goat. You heard that right, dry-humping a goat. A clueless priest that hands children off to vile, abusive pederasts, sexually frustrated wives with their cold, brutal husbands. There's a lot of pent-up sexual energy in this film to balance out its gruesome violence. It's like The Wizard of Oz in hell. This all affects the main kid, who is a sponge, as the constant reminders of inhumanity chip away at his innocence, leading he, himself, to become an executioner at points in the film. The silent lead, played by Peter Kotlar, puts in a good yet muted performance, literally. He's not given much to emote unless it's from the 1 to 10 scale of stage acting. I had to look at behind-the-scenes videos of him goofing around on the set to feel relieved. Everyone turns in an excellent performance, and director Vaclav Marhul has a steady directing style with some really wonderfully lensed visuals in a black and white motion. I give it a 6.5 out of 10, seeing your wife get turned on by two cats humping and taking the violence out on a farmhand. This has been The Horror Deconstruction.